Welcome to Impact Wrestling. Welcome, everybody. Now, oh, hang on. I had done this a couple of times because it's kind of hard to figure out how I'm going to explain a certain thing. Before I get to the show, I need to address something. You see, guys, your comments mean a lot. You don't always agree with me, which I'm fine with, because that shows that we're willing to talk to one another. We have different points of opinion, but I've always made it very clear I always respect you because you have the right to have your opinion about wrestling. Not everyone is correct about it. I'm not correct. Everyone is correct at the same time and not being correct. We don't have all the answers of wrestling. But this is one thing I need to address that's kind of outside of wrestling because of one subscriber. You know who you are, and I respect you. And even after the comments you left, I'm not mad at you. But I want you to see another point of view that I want to explain this to you. And I'm trying to make this short because I can talk too damn long. But his feeling about what happened with Bray Wyatt, possibly getting some work eventually, but realizing I can't stand his hoe. Now he's talking about JoJo. If you don't know, Bray Wyatt was married previously, but he left his wife and his kids to go be with JoJo, who now has had some kids of her own. I think she has 2 children right now with him, 1 or 2 children. And now that he's not working at this moment, either he's going to go back to WWE or he will go to AEW, Impact Wrestling, RH. Maybe he'll go to NWA. We don't know yet. He's still within a 3-month non-compete clause right now. But his comment saying that he doesn't really care what happens to Bray Wyatt, and he can't stand his hoe, his woman, JoJo. Which, if anyone's seen JoJo on WWE and on Total Divas, she's not a bad woman. This is something I had to say because I tried to make it very clear. There are reasons why people don't stay together. Now, I understand his point of view, that he left his family high and dry. I'm not condoning what he's done. I'm not. But you got to understand there are different points of view that you don't understand. And it comes in my perspective on the other side where JoJo is. Now, I'm not saying that JoJo is innocent. Let's be honest, she messed with a man who was married and convinced him to be with her, knowing full well he was still married. He didn't divorce, at least I don't think he directly divorced her immediately. Or I don't know if his wife divorced him. Either he divorced or his wife divorced. I just know he's doing child support for his kids from her. But I'm from the perspective of JoJo because, honestly, you see a 50-year-old man here. But when I was born to a woman who was over 40 years old, from the older generation. I was born to a woman who was married at one time, but could not carry her children properly because she kept having premature children or stillborn. I haven't been told the whole story about my mother. She had at least 2 premature children at least, and 1 stillborn. And next to probably her husband cheating on her, they divorced by the time I was born. No, actually 1 year after I was born, they were divorced. Now my mother met my father in the 60s, before I was born. And understand, if I'm right, she was still technically married to her husband before the divorce. They were separated. But with my own biological father, who isn't really a father, he was already still married to, he was in his he was in his late 30s when I was born. By the time I was 10, he was in his 40s. He had a wife that was in her 70s. He liked them old, like my mom was in her 50s. But he was with my mother. He was technically still married, messing around with another woman. And pretty much was not even generally dealing with his kids. He was treating his kids like shit. My half-sisters and my half-brother from my father's side of the family have been treated so badly. They hate themselves, and I think they're already passed away by now. They'll be in their 60s by now, or early 60s or mid 60s or 70s. I came from the older generation, guys. Generally, my mother would have been the hoe. But understand, my mother was not a hoe. She was in a situation where she fell in love with a guy that was not willing to do the right thing. He didn't want to divorce his wife. Probably for cultural reasons because he's Puerto Rican, or he just wanted to be glad he had more than one woman. or he just didn't want to break the heart of his 77-year-old wife when he was almost 50 years old, around my age. I'm not saying, and I want to make it clear, I know this is long, I'm sorry. I'm not saying this is right, but I am saying that there are situations that are mixed in that where we don't know the whole story. And I'm not saying I condone him leaving his wife in the street homeless with the kids, because that's what he said. That's what the subscriber said. I'm just telling you there's a lot going on, and I am definitely not drawing a line saying that Bray is innocent, or JoJo, or his wife for that matter. We don't know what was going on. We don't. No matter what you say that has been reported, we don't know the full story. I'm just saying there's always going to be something we don't know, and you don't need to call JoJo a hoe. She's just not. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe I should break this off to his own video. Maybe I should. Maybe, I don't, actually no, just leaving this. Look, if you're sick of this, I will put a timestamp and you can just fast forward this mess. Let's get into the show, which, oh my gosh. Really? This is not the title of the video. This is just me thinking, Brian Myers. Really? Okay, let's get to the beginning. Tennille Dashwood versus Taylor Wilde, which is the weakest feud they got. They didn't book Taylor Wilde right. They didn't book Tennille Dashwood right. They did not book Caleb with a K right. This is the truth. They didn't book them right because they should have started with... Taylor Wilde should have said what was going on before she fought Caleb with a K. They should have had some build-up where she was trying to attack both of them, and then you have the match with Caleb, and then you have the match with Tennille Dashwood. That should have how the structure of it been, and it wasn't. So we get this match, and honestly, Dashwood wins, but I don't really care because the structure was not done properly. I want to see something with Caleb with a K, trying to weasel his way out of it with his neck brace. I want to see Tennille try and get out of it and try to save herself. But what do we get at the end of that match? We get Madison Rayne coming back, looking, here she is in my face with her boobies looking good, and she looks good looking. The boobies looking good, the shape looking good as a mama. She comes back and saves Tennille, and now she's with her and probably is going to be a tag partner. I just feel like they could have done this better. This could have been done at Emergence. I'm just being honest. And I believe that's next week on the 20th. If I get Emergence with Resurgence mixed up between New Japan and Impact, please give me a break. It's easy to get Emergence and Resurgence mixed up when you're trying to talk quick. Let's move on. Now, we got Daivari versus a Josh Alexander, which wasn't a bad match. It was not. Now, something we didn't normally see, we get to see Jake Something at the top of the ramp watching the match. But the thing that felt weird was like, didn't you notice that he was going like, was his nose itchy? Was he doing some cocaine in the back and he forgot to blow his nose? I'm not saying he's a cocaine addict. That's just a joke. That's a joke. A joke. But seeing him like that felt a little weird. It would have been a little better if he had been a little more animated. Like, if he saw that Daivari's about to win, he's going like, getting angry because if Daivari wins does not mean he's going to get his match for the title. Now, of course he would. But, you know, they could have said, well, if Daivari won, Josh Alexander will, his match with Josh Alexander will be null and void. That would have made it more interesting, where he would want to see Josh Alexander win, so instead of having Daivari. I'm kind of wishing that could have happened, but they didn't go there. It was a good match for what it was. Daivari's always been known to be a great wrestler. Damn, that guy is still jacked for his age. He's like making me look like I could be a pimple on his shoulder, then a muscle. But in the end, you get Jake Something coming to the ring, grabbing the title from the ref, holding it in his hand, and then sticking it to his chest. And pretty much, that is meant to be an insult. So, hey, this ain't your damn title, it's mine. Here, take it and keep it nice and shine that sucker up for me because I'm going to be taking it. I will be taking it from you. Fine. I wish they had added a little bit more, but let's expect only certain amounts from the creative team of Impact Wrestling. They don't do detail very well. AEW does better detail, along with NWA does better detail than Impact Wrestling at this moment. They have their moments. I won't take away something from Impact, but this ain't one of them. Now, we had several vidpacks in the show. I'm not going to cover them all, but the one I will cover, how can I explain this one? When they show Kenny Omega and Don Callis in AEW, it's obvious they recorded that in the AEW. Marvez, at one point, when he was talking with Christian, was holding an Impact mic. Because Marvez is not part of Impact. He's part of AEW. So it looks like they made an agreement that any filming they do will have some level of Impact vibe to it or undertones of it. So it's obvious they were in AEW when this was done. It was obvious. They weren't doing an Impact. But he made it very clear. It's unfair what was going between Tony Khan and Scott D'Amore. Really? Really? Why not have Tommy Dreamer there? Because he's the representative of Anthem. Wouldn't it have been better to have Tommy be involved along with Scott on messing with Don more, and he could have mentioned Scott as well as Tommy because he is the Anthem official representative? Wouldn't it have been better to have him there? But basically he said that they don't like how unfair this is. They don't like the Battle Royal, particularly that it's the only person they can find, particularly the person that they chose. And pretty much, Don made it very clear. We are the best. The person that I got to hold this title and all the others is the best that has ever been created. No one better than him. And he kind of referred to CM Punk, and I'm sure he referred to Daniel Bryan. Both Don and the Kenny Omega trying to bring more undertones of who is coming to AEW. And maybe work in Impact Wrestling. We do not, I want to make this clear before I go any farther. Because Christian Cage, not saying that he will come to Impact, he probably will not win against Kenny this Friday. Because I will be looking at Rampage. He might not, but does not mean he won't go to Impact. There's a possibility he may go. And anyone else may go. That may supplement their roster. And I'm not fond of it. But at least you can say the people that are going to Impact back and forth are former Impact stars. And pretty much bringing up about a little bit of Christian Cage. His reference to trying to get the title at, well, I really don't like the name Rampage. But at Rampage, he could get the title. He made it very clear that he will make sure that everyone at Impact has a shot at it. But he wants to make it clear, you ain't going to take it from me. Now, I will say this was well structured for both the Marvez interview with Christian Cage and Kenny and Don. It wasn't bad. But I will say, fuck Impact Wrestling and AEW. Because we should have more people on Impact showing themselves on AEW. Why does it have to be Dana Purrazzo, who had an interview and also a small video pack talking about Impact Wrestling and her getting trained? And I will get to Marlena and her in a moment. But I want to see more people. Where is Rick Swann? Where is Willie Mack? Hell, Trey Miguel would be really good compared to a freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. Put Orange Cassidy against Trey Miguel. I want to see Trey Miguel whoop the shit out of Orange Cassidy. Dana Purrazzo going up against Statlander. Do you actually think Statlander would stand a chance? Statlander's good as a wrestler, but not that good. She would get her butt whooped. Butt whooped. Now, let's move on. A little bit of the Kira Hogan. Well, first, let's reverse this. Let's talk about Tasha Steelz and what was her name? Not Susanna, Sienna Evans. I believe her name is Sienna Evans or Sienna Evans. I can't remember. She tries to explain what was going on between her and Kira Hogan. This happened after she was taken. But this was actually well done. She made it very clear. I brought flavor to Impact. I brought flavor to her, but she didn't want to take all of the flavor. She wanted to keep it at a certain level. It don't work like that with me. So when we started losing, pretty much that's what she was saying. Not directly. I had to do something about it. So I got the baddest bitch on the planet right behind me that will never touch me. And then Father Bob comes out and says, hey, are we still good? Because I need your help against the Havoc, and I think that must have happened on BTI because I don't watch BTI. He was having problems against Havoc and Rosemary. So she said, you want some help? No problem. I got an issue with them too because those titles are mine. They belong to me. So this is all right. Now Kira comes to the ring dressing lovely. Miss that ass. And no disrespect to her. But let's be honest. Kira Hogan is one big butt. For her size, she has no boobs. She has a very beautiful face and a very large butt with very thick legs. She's a very lower half strong woman. There ain't no lie. That's the reason why most of her moves are leg based. She's very good. And here she did a decent job saying, look, I thought you were the only one that understood me. I thought the only one that would get me and did get me. But you did this to me, baby? No, you don't backstab me. Come on out. Basically, she turned to a face at that moment. And she's calling out Evans and she's calling out Tasha. She's calling them out because she want to whoop some ass. And then we get something I didn't expect. I did expect Tasha to come down with Evans and destroy her and then set up a match, maybe at Emergence, where she would job basically to Evans. There was no problem with it. I didn't expect anything more than that. But no, they let Su Yung come out with the newly converted, she's in my face, that's the shot in the ring, the newly converted, what? Kimberly goes to the ring. They just pulled off the Alexa Bliss work. Better than Alexa Bliss. Let's be honest. Alexa Bliss, as she is crap when it comes to doing what she did. It didn't really fit because she wasn't built that way. But with Su Yung as the undead bride, where she controlled people for years. How many years have we seen Su Yung control women? Turned on undead brides. Seeing her control Kimberly actually made sense. She pulling out the bloody glove from that boobie of hers. I really wanted her to become a seductress. Susanna, the seductress. But she didn't do it. You get the cleavage. You get the bloody glove. You get Kimberly putting on the bloody glove. She does the mandible claw. Done. And then they drag her back and she disappears. Which that might mean she is done. Unless they're going to show some footage of her going into a coffin later. She's done. We're never seeing her again. So if this is the last time we see Kira in a gimmick that needed to be refreshed, I'm alright, but then not, because you would have thought Sienna Evans should have been the one to get over on Kira because that would make more sense. Now they still could go there, but doing this kind of is alright, but then it's not at the same time because it doesn't match well. But at least they give Kimberly that moment. But I kind of wish they had not on Kira Hogan. That's just me. You guys tell me below. Melina had a moment because of the vidpack that, Melina talked, saying that she's honored that she's having this opportunity to go up against the current knockout champion because she's never been in Impact. As far as I know, she's never worked in Impact once. I could be wrong. You guys can tell me below. Then Dana comes out and she says, you want to see what you're about to go up against, honey? I'll show you. And I can't remember this woman's name. I don't watch UFC. I haven't watched UFC in almost a decade. I've forgotten all about it. But this woman that supposedly is working with Deanna Purrazzo is a former Atom champion. Women's Atom weight champion. That makes sense. She is a submission specialist. She's also a hard-hitting person. Now, the key of this, and this is where it's important. No matter what happens with her and Hurst at Emergence, NWA's own pay-per-view for women, or if she goes to AEW or continues in Impact Wrestling. You currently have a former UFC atomweight champion. You better change your tactics and change your wrestling style to show that you really are learning from a former atomweight women's UFC champion. If she's still the same way, generally speaking, it's a waste of time. Why would you go there? Just for the credit of it, it kind of diminishes the person that she is working with. She's got to give herself extra moves now. She's now working with a UFC champion, former UFC champion. She must show some type of progression. As much as I love Dana Purrazzo, she better do it, because I'll oust her ass. And I don't care if anyone likes her or not. You guys like her or not will mean shit. Because if she's still using the same moves and does them repeatedly like she hasn't learned anything, I will poon the shit out of her ass. And she'll deserve it. Now, we got the rematch of Finjuice versus Bay and Jay. I don't like doing rematches, but I understand why they're doing it because of Resurgence. The New Japan Pro Wrestling, I believe, is Resurgence, not Emergence. You see, this is where you can get mixed up, like I did the last week and the week before, talking about Resurgence and Emergence. You can easily get mixed up. This is supposed to be for New Japan's Emergence. Now, it's not the point of the match. Basically, Finjuice didn't mean anything. Chris Bay didn't mean anything. That kind of hurts me for the simple reason that Chris Bay should have had more time. Why didn't he get the Bullet Club moniker at Emergence? Why did it have to be a couple of weeks beforehand? Why? Couldn't Jay White come back during Emergence and give that little thing? Couldn't he have helped then? I'm just saying why. Because I really feel that Chris Bay should have it, yes, as an Impact Plus show. It isn't like it's going to be Bound for Glory. And that's where it should have happened. Where they've been building him up and building him up. Showing that he deserved to be part of the Bullet Club in America. And hopefully one day we'll go to Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and show why he was allowed to join. But if they got to do it at Emergence, that wouldn't make sense. Here, it feels like it was just rushed. And I don't like it. So the thing about this weekend is supposed to be Resurgence for New Japan Pro Wrestling and AAA's own pay-per-view as well. I don't know which one is going to be on which day. I might actually see if I can look at Resurgence and, my neck, and AAA. See, I hadn't seen my chiropractor. He wasn't in today when I went to do my physical therapy. So my neck is stiff. So if I go like this a little bit and go, ow, it's a little stiff. So it's okay, guys. But I would have liked them to build it up. That's just me. You guys tell me below. We get a surprising match of John Skyler versus a Matt Cardona. Where Matt Cardona... Raju and Shira in my face. If I got the shot. If I don't have the shot, this is what you're going to see, my beautiful little ugly mug. But if I do, and you've seen it, they interfere with the match, and Skyler wins. Now, if Skyler's joining the Impact Wrestling, if he already has, I can understand they want to give Skyler a win without hurting Matt Cardona. Because after what Matt Cardona did in GCW and his death match with Gage was pretty good. Nick Gage was, I'm not into blood and gore all the time, but at least it made some sense to allow him to really show how good he was. But it doesn't hurt him because they interfered. But then it's like, really? Particularly what happened in the Battle Royal. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but it is what it is. Finally, if I'm forgetting something, I'm forgetting something, I'm going to leave it. And hopefully I'll remember the next Impact. 20-man Battle Royal. Everybody on the roster, pretty much the entire roster, except for Josh Alexander and, except for the Good Brothers, Josh Alexander, as well as Kenny Omega. They were not involved in it. It was just for the number one contender for Kenny Omega's Impact title. They get rid of Morrissey quickly. Everyone gathers around because Morrissey, I believe he took out 3 people. I don't remember who. I know he took out Hernandez. I know he took out him, but I don't remember the other 2. He takes out 3 people, and pretty much everyone gets him out. They could not deal with him. He's too strong. Then they get rid of Matt Cardona. Then they get rid of Trey Miguel. 2 people I thought might be all right for Kenny Omega to go up against. Kenny Omega is Cody Rhodes' friend. Wouldn't that be more interesting? Because Cody could film something for Matt Cardona. Because he was in AEW for a little while. Then he came to Impact the way he's signed now. Wouldn't it make it interesting? The current executive who is now out, one of his greatest and closest friends, is now going after the title that he helped create. That would have been interesting. Trey Miguel, who's been on this rise, who has had really great matches but never really got anywhere. That would have been interesting. Chris Sabin. Wouldn't have been interesting for him. No. Moose. This might give a good reason for him to be able to build into something. No. Not even Sami Callihan. No. Brian Myers. That just sounds so awful coming from my mouth. Brian Myers is your number 1 contender for the Impact World Heavyweight Championship. Really? Look, I'm not against Brian. He hasn't been doing bad work. He's been working with, when it comes to Sam, he hasn't done a bad job. But he hasn't been in any major storylines. The storyline he had with his best friend, Matt Cardona, has not really been done well. It was either really slow at first, then rushed. Instead of the reverse, a little bit of rushing in the beginning to make them really see that they need to go up against each other. Then slow it down a little bit so it can mean something like at a Slammiversary, that they're fighting one another because of their own actions for their history. No, they didn't do it right. And he went up against Eddie at one point. That didn't help him. So you're seeing this. A Brian Myers now getting a shot at Kenny Omega. I'm going like, what? It doesn't work. This feels like because they really can't get the right person, particularly that they've gone and blown their load on everyone. They've gone through every freaking person on the damn roster. They've done Moose. They've done Eddie. They've done Sammy. They've done Rich. Those are the most strongest people there. That at one point, they were floating at one point. Moose was floating. Eddie was floating. Who else do you want to say would be great to go up against? The only person that's left that makes perfect sense if they were going to let Kenny drop that title is Josh Alexander using option C. This is all that's left. Unless he's going to carry that title into 2022, which he could. I would not ever think the creative team or the brass in the back Impact will not just leave the damn title on Kenny until 2022 and then let him drop it. And let him defend it into basically not just going into Slammiversary doing something there, but Bound for Glory, their signature pay-per-view. I truly believe that they will not drop the title. But the only person that's left that makes sense, it's not going to be Sabin because he didn't get his shot here, which would have made sense. Even if he lost, at least one really good wrestler who's known in Japan named Chris Sabin is now going up against one very good wrestler who has worked in Japan as well, Kenny Omega. Wouldn't have been a bad match, but we don't got it. Sabin's not the one. It's Brian Myers, who, generally speaking, is not a bad wrestler, but it does not mean he's the right person for it. Not because he's a total freaking jobber. I don't believe he is. It's just he hasn't been booked properly to really show that he is meant for this. Hell, he hasn't even gone after the X Division title. He hasn't. He's just been facing Eddie. He's been facing a little bit of the Matt Cardona. That's all he's done, generally speaking. But this is just me. You guys tell me below how you feel about this. And I'm sorry about what was talked about earlier. I'll try and leave a stamp so you can skip it. Peace.